Wow, Knicks, what a great season. 50 wins for the second time this century. Stirring end to the regular season to get the 2 seed. Here's Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round. Wow, that's great. While the Boston Celtics either get the corpse of the Miami Heat or the 39-win Chicago Bulls. I mean, God almighty. The Celtics don't make at least the Eastern Conference final. Send them to the Big East, and UConn can play in the Eastern Conference next year. I don't want to hear anything about Jason Tatum and MVP ever again, or Jaylen Brown, or Porzingis, or Drew Holiday, or Joe Mazzulla. If this team can't get to at least the Eastern Conference final, I'm a little annoyed as a Knicks fan. I'm a little jealous of the Boston Celtics, but they should make the Eastern Conference final. So a ton of NBA coming up on the show. I'm way, way good on this iteration of the Atlanta Hawks. Like forever. I'm done. I'm done.
Coach
done.
Quinn, you don't want to give him year two? Coach Quinn?
I'm okay with Coach Quinn because Quinn Snyder did a really nice job at Missouri. Did a really nice job with the Utah Jazz. Yeah, so he has the Dr. Quinn Snyder medicine coach who looks like he should be moonlighting as the villain in a 1980s Steven Seagal movie with this ridiculous haircut. But I don't mind Quinn Snyder. Just like the Trae Young led Atlanta Hawks. At what point do we say it's time to blow it up? It's over. It was a good run. They had the playoff series wins a couple years ago. Getting to the Eastern Conference final, right? Beating the Knicks, then beating the Sixers in the game where Ben Simmons wouldn't shoot the ball, losing to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference final. It's done now. Go away. See you later. Bye. Also, I bet them last night. So maybe my opinion a little informed by that they couldn't even come close to covering the spread. Kobe White looked like Michael Jordan last night. You know how hard that is to do? I know he's a good player, slashing through the lane, slicing and dicing like a Russell Westbrook in his prime. What the hell's going on, man? What the hell's going on with the Atlanta Hawks? What a bunch of jerks. Yeah, that noise you just heard in the background? Those are police sirens as the cops get set to escort the Celtics straight to the Eastern Conference Final with this development from last night in the Sixers Heat game. So we can talk about the Celtics, Ken. We can talk about the Knicks and the Sixers. Dealer's choice here. Where do you want to start coming off of last night's game in the Eastern Conference, the 7-8 matchup?
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics are kind of interesting just because they're one of the very likely teams to win. But if we're talking about challengers to the Celtics, I think just an eye test comment first. All of us, I think, what's the conversation about the NBA right now and the bracket and who can win has kind of centered on the idea that if Boston doesn't win the conference, they're going to win the conference a lot, but it's always, well, if they don't win it, essentially one of these two teams will be the one that wins it. These were the two teams that were brought up the most. Milwaukee has an injury to Giannis, and they're bad. They're under 500 with Doc Rivers as their coach. The Knicks have a lot of injuries. The Pacers aren't particularly good. Tyrese Halliburton hasn't been the same. The Magic have no playoff experience. There's not a lot of options for, what do you pick, the Bulls? There's just not a lot going on in terms of teams to win the Eastern Conference that aren't Boston. Things have broken very well for them, but these are the two teams that were always brought up as the Heat have a great record against them and play them very tough and have a huge coaching advantage in the series. Obviously beat them last year. And then the Sixers have kind of come close a couple times against Boston. The teams have played very entertaining series previously. Celtics always getting the better of them, but this could be different because Embiid hasn't played and maybe he can get back to full health and the composition of the teams, if the coach is different. And so this was the sell going into last night's game. It was one of the reasons why we viewed it as such a high leverage game. Winner of the game gets on the opposite side. Then you play Boston in the conference finals. Who knows? Just watching the game. And this is unfair because it's one game and the Heat do this. They make teams look bad. Did either team look like the team that's going to beat the Celtics last night? I'm just watching it and I go, the Heat do Heat things, and Terry Rozier didn't play in the game last night, and we'll talk about that with the next game too. That could end up being really important for them, which means Hero had to shoot way more and play way more, and that wasn't great. So it wasn't even full strength Miami. But I just, you got to be honest with yourself when you're watching these things. Embiid's looks not very good for a lot of the game. Makes a couple incredible plays. The touch pass ahead for the layup, one of the key plays of the game, was excellent. But he looks 60% of what he is. That we played, this was the first game. And it's oh, well, he'll get better. Really? Or maybe he'll get worse. Why does it have to be better? Why does that have to be the answer? I just found myself, it got more pessimistic last night watching both games, where I just go, really, 7-game series? These are the two that are supposed to get the Celtics? And I want somebody to go get the Celtics. It makes it easier for me with Denver to win. And I don't know if these are the teams that are going to do it. I mean, Philly is, I guess, the more likely one because their guy's going to play, and we don't know if Jimmy Butler's gonna. But man, like we had all kind of, and I did it too. We all kind of talked ourselves into the idea of like, well, the winner of this, like that's your challenger, and they get on the opposite side and they meet in the conference finals. Man, it got to look a lot different than it did last night. I feel like for both teams, just eye test wise, watching the game.
You better hear with Nick and Ken on a Thursday talking the Philadelphia 76ers win last night over the Miami Heat. We'll talk about the Celtics and their path to the Eastern Conference Final in a second, but let's spend a couple minutes now on the Knicks and the Sixers coming up in the first rounds of the playoffs in the 2-7 matchup. Game 1 Saturday from the Garden. The Knicks a 2.5-point favorite, total 208.5. Really interesting series price as well at our show sponsor, BetMGM. Minus 110 both ways. And I thought the Sixers were going to be favored, not by a lot. So it's basically pick the winner of the series between the Knicks and Philadelphia. Just based on the way, Ken, that you were talking about Joel Embiid last night, my sense is maybe you like the Knicks in this series. Maybe you like the Knicks to get past Philadelphia and advance to the second round. I'll give you my thoughts on who I think is going to win the series in a second, but is that how you're leaning right now with Joel Embiid clearly not 100% for Philly?
Well, I think there's a difference between they can't beat Boston and they can beat the Knicks with no Randall and with, like we'll see if does Anunoby play every game in the series, right? Does Mitchell Robinson play every game in the series? Like do all these things happen? Because it's, like let's use some of the criteria we used yesterday, which I just think is a good way to start having the talk about each series. So like these 3 criteria, right, where regular season performance is kind of the least important of the 3. That's obviously advantage Knicks, but everything gets an asterisk on it because Embiid didn't play in the games. So it's like, yeah, the Knicks had a better net rating, but they didn't when Embiid played. And like, yeah, the Knicks from an all-NBA talent standpoint, that Jalen Brunson will make either first or second team all-NBA probably this year, and Embiid won't. But when he was playing, he was the MVP. So, like, do the Knicks have an advantage? Playoff experience. Like, Sixers. Like, I mean, I just, like, the coaches won a title. I mean, it just, like, it's, so all of these criteria point pretty hard toward Philly. And then it's like, well, then, why is Philly not your favorite bet of all time? Because I'm worried about Joel Embiid's leg falling off at some point during this. I mean, it's ridiculous to watch. And he falls down a million times. This is not even like an insulting thing. It's just, it's tough to be really confident making a bet when the key to everything is a really big unknown. And the pricing kind of reflects that it's a really big unknown. I mean, if he honestly, like this, maybe this sounds stupid, but I kind of believe it. Like if he just looked a little better, they'd be favored in the series. If he just looked a little better, it's not even a statistical thing. It's not even a performance thing. Just like I watch him and he's not wearing a brace that weighs 50 pounds and he's not adjusting it constantly and he doesn't look bad. Like they might be minus 130 or minus 140 or minus 150, but they're not because we have to have like a healthy amount of,
right. And deserve
and we have to have a healthy amount
of
skepticism. Absolutely deserved. Have to have a healthy amount of skepticism that he's going to play every game in the series.
Okay. So you wouldn't bet the Knicks. I really want to. And I want to lay them in game 1 on Saturday. And then I want to lay them again in game 2 on Saturday. I find myself as a fan, I think that I'm normally pretty pessimistic just by rule as a sports fan, which maybe I shouldn't be because I've seen a bunch of my teams win championships. I'm pretty optimistic about the series. Now, I don't want anyone to confuse the issue here. I would have much rather seen Miami. And I had a text chain with a bunch of my friends last night, and they're like, who would you rather face? And this is before we knew about Butler's injury. And for me, it was obviously Miami. Like, give me Miami. I'll take Miami over Joel Embiid and the Sixers. So it's not like I wanted to see Philadelphia in the first round. I would have much rather played the Miami Heat. But now that we're here and Embiid doesn't look 100%, I don't know, man. Like the Sixers barely at home last night beat Miami with Jimmy Butler playing 3/4 of the game with a sprained MCL and no Terry Rozier. And I know the Knicks don't have Julius Randle. They haven't had Randle since January. I think the Knicks are going to win this series. I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't know if I'm going to bet it before the series. I'm definitely going to bet them in game 1. I think the Knicks will win the series against Philadelphia. Okay. And heartbreak for me will come later down the road in this postseason as a fan.
Be honest, for the start of the series, some optimism about later in the series. That doesn't sound very good. What about Bucks and Pacers here in about a minute?
Yeah, so I jumped in at plus 140 when the news came out from Woj on Indiana. The impact that Giannis for this series is so massive. Obviously, 42 points per game in the season series. But just think about how he scores. Rim scoring. He leads the NBA in almost 20 points per game at the rim. He's half of the Bucks' rim scoring. Half. So they would be like 15 points below the worst team without Giannis' rim scoring. How do you beat Indiana? Rim scoring. They give up the second most rim points in the NBA. You take away Giannis and his rim pressure. The Pacers are first rim scoring. Losing Giannis, you lose that extra rim presence on defense. He is huge. So if you tell me he misses game 1, if he misses game 2, this series is over. I don't think they could come back. We know they've owned him over the course of the year, so I really like where Indiana's at. They've got Pascal Siakam, so I'm pretty into where things are. This could be a whole smoke screen, but I do like where the Pacers are sitting right now.